is the person who wrote the Person of the Year profile of Donald Trump, as we mentioned. And also with us tonight is Tara Palmieri, senior political correspondent at Punk News and host of the Somebody's Gotta Win podcast. Thank you both for being here tonight. Tara, I want to start with you. You're reporting on the pressure campaign. Some Republican senators are basically experiencing, especially Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, to confirm Pete Hegseth for the Pentagon chief. Donald Trump is not someone who has a history of putting out a ton of political capital with respect to any of his allies. But in this instance with Hegseth, it seems like he's putting out quite a bit. Is that the case? And if so, why is he willing to spend that on Hegseth when he wasn't on Matt Gaetz?
It does seem like he is willing to put out some political capital, but Donald Trump doesn't measure political capital. He will give someone an endorsement and then he'll take it back if that person doesn't look like they're winning. He's endorsed two people. He doesn't measure it the way that certain politicians do, in the way that they think that there's only a certain amount. He believes that it is infinite. He seems to at least be standing by Pete Hegseth for now. I really think that these attacks on Hegseth from the Heritage, Action, they're going to run ads in her backyard, but not just in her backyard, but in the backyards of Bill Cassidy, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, other members who might be seen as less willing to go along with the pressure campaign. And there's also obviously Trump's pit bull, Mike Davis, who is, threatening to hire PIs on these senators to dig up dirt on them. It's getting really dirty right now. But I also think a lot of these people are doing it to curry favor for Trump. At the end of the day, he believes that these nominees, it's on them whether they stand or fall. And if Pete Hegseth falls, he'll just move on to another. He doesn't think that reflects badly on him.
Well, in terms of what does reflect poorly on him, Eric, one of the things you talk about in your piece for time as Trump with Person of the Year is this notion that the American public isn't fully prepared for the ultimate chaos that could or may ensue with a second Trump term. Do you think that that chaos begins with these Senate picks and whether they get confirmed?
Well, I think, what Americans may not be prepared for is the scale of change and potential for chaos that a second Trump term could bring. He is offering disruption on a massive scale. He believes that he won on a promise to disrupt and change Washington, so he ultimately is going to try and deliver on the agenda that he campaigned on. I think to an extent you're seeing that play out in the transition process, but you're also seeing him put people in place much quicker than he did last time. He's having his personal touch on all of it. He's very deeply involved in the decision-making process for people who are fulfilling top cabinet positions, as well as lower-level White House staff positions that don't need Senate confirmation. But, I think what you're really going to see is the fact that Trump likes to put people through the ringer and see how they endure through a test, because one of the things he admires most in the people who work for him is resilience and their ability to withstand incoming from the other side.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the things that Donald Trump does quite characteristically is that he will, depending on the situation and what's necessary, make his positions very malleable. And we talked about that in the opening with respect to abortion. You've also seen that, Eric, as it pertains to some of the promises that he's made, even around things like lowering grocery prices, when he's now basically walking back some of the things that he said on the campaign to change people's expectations. Given that, and you did this Person of the Year piece, how does the American public develop actual indexes or metrics to measure Donald Trump's success this time around?
Well, as you say, Donald Trump sometimes keeps those measurements of success quite abstract. We asked him, sir, if you fail to lower the price of groceries, will that make your administration a failure? He promised very strongly on the campaign trail that he was going to lower prices. This was a key part of his message. It was also one of the key frustrations that was expressed by voters who supported him. And, he basically said, it's hard to bring prices down when they've already gone up. We're going to try, but it's very hard. That's kind of moving the goalposts, if you will, from what he said on the campaign trail. So, I think it'll be on members of the press and others to sort of pin him on specifics. Inflation right now is at a certain level. What can we expect it to be when you are president? What will real wage growth be? What will what will the consumer index be, things like that. But, right now it's just sort of wholehearted promises of American renewal and success.
Let's continue to talk cabinet, but let's switch gears. Tara, I want to talk to you about your journey down the RFK Jr. rabbit hole. You reported that you essentially went to fill out one of these applications to work under RFK Jr. and what you saw when you went down this rabbit hole of an application. Basically, he's asking for applicants to the health department to choose from some very unusual pre-written responses, such as, quote, "I don't have much interest in having sexual experiences with another person. I consistently use my physical appearance to draw attention to myself," or "I have chronic feelings of emptiness." Listen, I've applied for a lot of jobs. I know a lot of people out there have applied for a lot of jobs. I'm just hoping, Tara, you can help me make sense of what's the purpose of these questions?
It's very strange. And honestly, that is just 3 of maybe 100 very bizarre answers on this intake form. And it's a 90-minute form, by the way. And it starts mostly with like pattern assessment and then word associations. That's about 30 minutes. And then it moves on into these very bizarre personality questions. I think they're looking for people who have like schizo issues, narcissists. Jordan Peterson is the person who is behind this form. He is a psychology professor who has sort of gone to the right, almost to like a gadfly status, but is also a hero among a lot of people that believe in RFK Jr. and the MAHA movement. So I'm not entirely surprised, but yeah, it gets very, very weird. I'm looking right now at some of these. It says, before you take this, be well rested, have recently eaten, and make sure you will not be disturbed. Some of the other questions, some of the other responses are, modesty doesn't become me. I get upset when people don't notice how I look when I go out in public. And here's another one. I can usually talk my way out of anything. So, I mean, they're obviously trying to weed out a specific type of person. And also try to find people who will go along with their agenda, which is obviously not exactly, mainstream. So I think that's why they're putting out these personality tests. I asked the Trump administration. They said RFK can solicit nominees however he wants, and then they have to go through the vetting process from there. But yeah, that's how they're doing it.
It causes me to wonder, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on this, Tara. With everything else that's going on with some of the other picks, we were just talking about Hegseth, and then you've got Kash Patel and some other picks that are controversial, whether these sorts of things regarding RFK Jr. will fly under the radar of the public because they're not necessarily being discussed. Is there any possibility that because of the more extreme picks that he's made and some of the bigger challenges that they have faced, that this is going unnoticed by the public or even the Senate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, something like this would be, a major question mark in a Senate hearing or even before the hearing process. Like, why is this intake form somehow qualify you for working for, the U.S. agency that handles health, right? But right now we've got way bigger issues, even RFK himself, right? I mean, he said that Wi-Fi causes cancer. He has suggested that COVID-19 was planned. And he is seen as someone, according to my Senate sources, who will be confirmed easily. I mean, one of my Senate sources quipped to me, I guess we're just gonna get rid of seed oil. When they have to think about people like Tulsi Gabbard, who has showed that she is sympathetic to to Vladimir Putin, and then went and visited Assad after he gassed his own people in Syria. So, then you have Kash Patel, who comes into the FBI with an enemies list, and they're still just trying to get through Pete Hegseth. The new, I guess, modus operandi of the Senate is just wait and see and try to keep your cards close to vest, because if you show them the way that Joni Ernst did, you will have attacks coming at you from all different directions, and it's better to hold off on that until later on in the process. We're still halfway to Inauguration Day, and so those holdouts are trying not to show their concern for now.
Eric, I just one quick question before we break. How much of this do you think, in terms of the chaos around these Senate picks, is resonating with the actual American public? Or do they just see Time, Person of the Year, Donald Trump, and think, hey, guy must be doing a good job?
Well, I don't think that the Senate picks are causing a great deal of anxiety or consternation for probably the majority of Americans. I think there's been polling out that shows that a lot of Americans, or a majority, think that Trump is doing a good job filling out his government. So I'm not sure just how much wide scales of the American public are feeling weary of it. I think a certain segment certainly is. But, you know, we'll ultimately see the effects and consequences of Trump's style of governance when he takes office. I think we're going to see someone very aggressively try to concentrate the powers of government inside the executive branch so that Trump can carry out a really radical agenda that we haven't seen before.
Eric Cortellessa, Tara Palmieri, thank you both for making the time this evening. Have a great weekend. And still ahead this hour, nearly 4 years after the January 6th Capitol attack, arrests and prosecutions of rioters continue, despite Donald Trump's vow to pardon insurrectionists on day one. But first, President Biden commutes the prison sentences of more people than any other president in any single day. I'll be talking with April Ryan, the reporter who broke this story, right after the break. I'm Charles Coleman Jr., and you're watching Alex Wagner Tonight. Stay with us.
Treating schizophrenia without a daily pill may seem impossible. But what if there was a path to treatment just twice a year? It's time for Invega Hafyera, the only long-acting injection that helps continuously control schizophrenia symptoms for up to 6 months with one dose. Before starting, you must be adequately treated with a similar shorter-term injection for at least 4 months. Invega Hafyera is not for everyone. Elderly dementia patients have an increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor if you have uncontrollable muscle movements, as these can become permanent. If you have high fever, stiff muscles, confusion, dizziness upon standing, seizures, or increase in prolactin. Other risks include increased cholesterol, weight gain, heart rate, and high blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death. These are not all the serious side effects. Invega Hafyera. Imagine what's ahead when you leave schizophrenia pills behind.
Twix is too good. Cookie inside a candy bar? It's like a cookie in disguise.
Imagine one of our gangs in disguise. I'd snap him.
There's more to a Twix.
Here at home tonight, news of every imaginable shape and size. A lot of the big news in the country and in the world right now is still developing tonight. Now is the time, so we're gonna do it. Settle in. I have a story to tell you. Watch this space.
Each week on my podcast, I'm joined by uniquely qualified guests who help me take a big picture look at the issues, like Representative Jasmine Crockett, late night host Seth Meyers, former Attorney General Eric Holder, and many more. Why is this happening? Listen now.